we're required by law to update our comprehensive plan. And this year was different, or this past year was different. Normally these were 6-year cycles. This was the first time we're going to do 10 years in the future. So I think we took it a little more seriously. And it was supposed to be a tweak. I think that was the word that was used early on, or an update. The 2005 comprehensive plan update was a substantial one. There was a lot of old language in the plan, and about 200 citizens were involved in various committees. We met as Plan Commission with each town, and it was a remarkable agreement. I mean, the idea of getting the incorporated towns working with a county agreeing upon what was called countryside preservation areas. These were green belts around the town. I thought that would be difficult. It turned out to be not easy, but remarkably a good thing. Anyway, fast forward to 2014, we were involved in our update, and citizens were involved again, fewer because it was going to be an update, and we began the process under leadership of Tom Hughes, who was a chairman at the time, and we went forth and went page by page. These are not perfect documents. Yeah. And even with the wonderful 2005 plan, there was old verbiage, new requirements by the state. For the most part though, we left it fundamentally alone. The vision we had was to preserve the rural character of this county, which is, that was developed with citizens in 2005. We left that alone. We all agreed upon that's a lovely place to live, and so that's what we did.
So when you say there was less participation, it was because, meaning that the vast majority of it was pretty much as was in 2005. There was no reason to.
That was the intent. Okay. We had no feeling that beyond that should be involved more people. We were happy that the citizens got involved. I think that's, from my understanding of the planning process, that's an essential aspect. If the citizens aren't involved, it doesn't work. We were asked by citizens groups to stand up for our rights a little more. The rights being, and their interpretation was that we were totally in charge. I don't think we felt totally in charge, to be honest, but that was the aspect, and that when the council saw fit to change the comprehensive plan, then there was a feeling that we should take it back as if it were ours. And our attorney, the county's attorney, said we're not that kind of county. There are that kind of county in this state where the planning commission really is the last word. Yeah. And in my experience, having been through only once before, we are continuously, we are an advisory body to the county council. And I think personally, the interpretation by other people that we are in charge actually helped a little in the process of getting the citizens involved and making us really think about what we did after the plan was returned to us. Uh-huh. I think there was a little more of a felt that we are advisory, but that we really ought to review the entire plan again, as opposed to a fairly narrow purview that the council wanted to give us.
The comprehensive plan is arguably the most important document in the county. Everything stems from it. It is the framework from which the density of the development occurs. It is the framework from which everything springs. It is a legal document, has legal standing. It is a document that contains policy statements. It is the direction that this county intends to manage for the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. So it is an important document, and as Bill said, the first statement in the vision statement of the plan is that we want to preserve the rural character of this county. And that's not something new. That didn't begin in 2005 or 2014. That goes back to 1950.
Right.
When the county council at that time, the bridge was being built, they saw the land speculators at work in Kent County. They didn't want that to happen here. And so they set about establishing a zoning code which would preserve our farmland and preserve our open space and retain the rural character of this county. They called it the rural charm of the county at that time.
Yeah.
And they worked, and in 1953 they passed a zoning code which established and has protected this county for generations. And county council after county council has pursued that vision and adopted that vision and governed in that way.
Including the current one, would you say? Or?
The current, I would say, right up until the current council, I would say.
Okay.
And that's a lot of leaders of this county and citizens of this county who have supported that view and worked hard to maintain it. The uncongested roads, the farmland, and the open space. And then in 1992, the state adopted a smart growth policy, which essentially is the same thing. They want development to occur in the incorporated towns where services are available, which is what the policy of Talbot County has been for all these years. And that's not anti-growth, it's anti-sprawl. We do not want to lose our farmland and our open space and our sense of rural character.
Right.
So
you felt it was at risk?
As we're going to proceed in this discussion, yes, I did feel that there were proposals made by this council when they got a hold of the plan that were directly counter to preserving the rural character of this county, and I wasn't alone. There were hundreds, perhaps thousands of citizens who eventually joined in the fray. There were citizen groups who were formed both in the Bay Hundred and in the Royal Oak Peninsula and in Oxford, large groups, 500 people or so, who became energized, who attended meetings. Once this became known that the county council was proceeding down a road to eliminate smart growth from the comprehensive plan, to propose planned unit developments out in the county, which would override zoning. Though when those kinds of things were proposed, and when one of the citizens in one of these meetings questioned where they were going with this development, they said, look, this is counter to what 65 years of county councils have done and advocated. The statement was made by one of the new council members, that's well and good, this is our plan now, and we'll do with it as we see fit. That's close to the quote that was made at the time. And that kind of language, that kind of arrogance exercised a whole lot of county citizens, and from that time on, there were eight or nine other meetings of the county council on the comprehensive plan, and the rooms were totally packed by citizens from that time on. Vigorous opposition.
The fundamental activity of the Planning Commission in upholding the vision is inherently a restrictive policy. In order to keep growth where it should go, encourage it there, smart growth, it means you have to be restrictive in areas you don't want it to grow. No one has said we don't want it to grow at all, and including the small villages. At the same time, villages is the ground zero of this discussion, and every villager, save a few, during the comprehensive plan process, there was a parallel development of the village center board and a group of village people throughout incorporated villages in the county, and they all had slightly different opinions. The consensus was, we want to stay the same. And that meant something slightly different one place to another, but that was consistent with, in my opinion, retaining the rural character. I mean, we've been through a tough recession, and especially in the building trades, the sale of houses around here. And I think there was a perception that the restrictions of our zoning code was really holding back the redevelopment. I'm just projecting here. And so the idea, what can we do about that? First of all, there was a connection, it appeared to us, between the desire for affordable housing And there was an affordable housing task force that did a very nice job and said, look, we have a problem in this county and we have to do something about it. And this looked like, I suspect, a solution to that problem of trying to find in the county places where we could place affordable housing and solve two problems at once. We agreed, and we did not have as much language in the original draft of the comprehensive plan. We had affordable housing paragraphs in there, but there was a strong desire on the part of the council to really push that language in there. And that, some of us felt the language that was pretty much a wholesale importation of the affordable housing task force was not appropriate for a comprehensive plan. That was a fairly small point in the large.
Yeah.
The real issue was that no one had disagreed that affordable housing was not important. However, we did disagree that opening up the rural villages for that purpose was wrong.
My largest concern was, in sum, the changes that the county council was proposing would have overcome the vision of the county, of generations of county managers and county citizens to preserve the rural character of the county. The idea that strip malls were no longer going to be prohibited in the county, the idea that you could have planned unit developments anywhere in the county, the idea that smart growth was no longer going to be a part of county policy. Those all led to a drastic change in what this county would be in the future. And I would like to have thought that, as you suggested earlier, that there was some just misunderstanding, but if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So I was concerned about that issue. And I want to say that there were two very positive things that developed from all this controversy, and they were both democratic lessons. The first is that elections have consequences. You need to know who you're voting for and know where they stand on the issues that are important to you. And the second is that citizens can have an impact. And it was marvelous to watch what happened here over this last year, with the citizens influencing the county council to back away from most of the statements that I think they disagreed with. They came out in the snow and in the rain and the wind. At winter time, they packed every room, and the county council got the message and reacted to it. To their credit, they reacted to it, and to the credit of the citizens. And that's a nice example to learn, a nice lesson for democracy.
I mean, there really was only one issue. All the rest pale. And the idea of reversing our vision to go and put too many houses in the rural villages was the only big issue. And I agree with Jack. We, at least I can speak for myself, felt tremendously supported by the variety of citizens groups that came and spoke. Not just because they agreed with our plan, but that provided a certain support for us doing what we did. The big issue, but it was a fairly small one when it came to discussing, and the discussion with the county council came awfully late in the game. I think there was certain frustration, to be honest. I'll confess to that. To not being able to go back and forth with the county council. There was about 7 or 8 months without a conversation on something that we obviously felt very, very strong about. It was what we did for hundreds of hours. And so the result of sitting down and working these out with the county council, if it weren't, in my opinion, if it weren't for the citizens, we would not take what we were asked to do after the citizens' comments, and we were asked to confine our attention to a fairly small number of issues. And I think I don't want to speak for Jack or the rest of the Planning Commission. We're very much involved in this. I felt we were free to address the entire comprehensive plan. We went back and rewrote sections that had been changed on the very issue that we really are concerned about. And the good news in all that, I think partly because of thinking in time, but above all for the citizens' participation. That discussion, after a few initial ruffled feathers with the county council, was remarkably agreeable and seamless and respectful.
I have an analogy that I've used with Bill and others, and it is that a group of citizens got together and planted a garden, and they prepared the soil, planted the seeds, watered the garden, stepped back, and they were proud of what they'd done. Another group of citizens came in and they were in charge of that garden, and when the first group came back, they were dismayed to find it full of weeds. And they got down on their hands and knees and they pulled all the weeds that they could, and they got 75% of them by root. And the other 25%, maybe the other 20%, the roots are still there and they're still concerned about that element of the comprehensive plan. And specifically, there are some of the policy statements are worded in such a way that for example, this is paraphrasing here, most development in the rural part of the country should occur in the planning area of the villages. Well, when you say most, that's not all. It's not a policy statement. It's amusing. It's a suggestion. It's a recommendation. It's a thought. It's a passing whim. The most doesn't belong in a policy statement, and neither does the word should. The development in the rural part of the country shall take place within the planning areas of the villages. And so those things remain in several policy statements, and that concerns me a bit. It's important to note that there's the 3 documents that are being prepared this year. They're important documents for this county. The comprehensive plan is the first, and it's probably the most important, as I said earlier. Following this, close on the heels, is going to be a comprehensive rezoning and remapping of the county, and there's all kinds of mischief possible there, as you can imagine. And following that will be the water and sewer plan, the comprehensive water and sewer plan, in which we'll be deciding who gets hooked up. Any vacant parcels? Well, that's the question. And so I'm hoping that these citizens who became so exercised and involved, and with their intellect and their time and their energy in the comprehensive plan, will stay connected, because this is big time coming at us here, and it's not over yet.
As I said about the 2005 document, that was definitely an imperfect document. Our draft to the county council, though we were proud of it, was an imperfect document. And there's only so much you can rework and redo. It was pretty good, but there were a few corrections made in the process that we should have done before. It is still an imperfect document. Those issues, most of the imperfections, are normal to a comprehensive plan. It's the kind of issues that Jack brought up that is more of a concern. And I think the good news is that we, as Planning Commission members, we have a certain interpretation of the comprehensive plan. We are asked on fairly important issues. For site plans, we are the last word. For sewer allocations, we're the last word. These are issues that are fairly important. I don't think there is I think that the most important of those issues is that if in fact the zoning ordinance were perfect, or even the comprehensive plan were perfect, then we have very little to do. There'd be no purpose of that. There are a lot of things in the legislation that are pretty good, but involve decisions and interpretation, some subjectivity, and that's where we get involved.